Welcome to Bunch Formation, your newest favorite college football show. I am Chris Vanini, and I hope my email finds you in good health this morning, David.
I am David Up, and I'm just trying to make sure my name is never used in the same sentence as embattled or beleaguered. Chris, are you mocking me for getting my email hacked last week?
Yes, I am. Late last week, David Ubben sent an email to, I think, everybody in the company.
Literally every person in the Athletic, a whole bunch of sources, a whole bunch of just people that I know in college football. Basically, if you have interacted with my Athletic email address, you got a very sketchy email from me this week. And I was talking to my editor. I'm not sure if I like that more than my personal email, because my personal email has 18 years of data and people I've interacted with in a bunch of different jobs. But my work email does have literally every person in the Athletic. So I had about 10 Slack messages, 30 texts, and it woke me up because I got about 300 bounce back emails from just old email addresses, because I've had that address for 8 or 9 years. And our 1-year-old didn't go to sleep till 5:30 that night. So it was a great morning overall.
So
Can't recommend it enough.
And the way you fell for it was through a phishing email that was sent regarding like a therapist or something, where the way you explained it to me, I was like, all right, that's actually like an understandable way to fall for it. You didn't get the email that you sent us. The email you sent us was obviously a scam, but the one you seemed to fall for was not.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like paperwork that I needed to fill out, and it was from an actual address of somebody that I've actually interacted with before. That's the beauty of this.
Like, you're in a new city.
Say,
you're in a new city. You're setting up new things. Yeah.
The New York Times security team who works for, with us is like the best. They are so great at their jobs. And they did tell me that it was a very advanced phishing scheme. So they said I should feel okay about it.
They were definitely laughing at you over there in the office. Folks, we got a big show. Some teams have been eliminated from the college football playoff. Many more kept their hopes alive. Pretty much every conference championship game is still up in the air. We've got more coaching news to get to, and Thanksgiving is coming. I mean, this is rivalry week. This is both the busiest and the most fun college football week of the year. It's just absolute pandemonium. Like, we need to recap week 13, and we will, but some of this will be looking forward to what is the final week of the regular season. This week is going to be nuts, and I love it.
Yeah, I think this week, along with week 1, are probably my 2 favorite weeks because it's just a buffet of football. The schedule has changed. Only one game on Thanksgiving, but there's a pretty solid slate on Friday. There's plenty, obviously, on Saturday. And it just is great. And this week is college football, Chris. There's so many things that have changed about the sport, the loss of regionality. But the regionality that we do have, and the thing that fuels college football that is still left over, is on full display this week. You've got every single, big time rivalry that really matters is hitting this week. And it's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait.
You don't get this in the NFL. Like, there are rivalries in the NFL, but you don't have any teams in Mississippi. And this week we've got an egg bowl between Mississippi and Mississippi State, one of whom may lose their coach, which we'll get to. I'm going to Texas versus Texas A&M on Black Friday. You're going to Tennessee Vanderbilt,
which is like the biggest game in that rivalry's history. We've got the mental torture that is the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry, and all the things that have come with that in the last 4 years. There's just so many things about this week that make it really special, and not to be Pollyanna-ish, but it gives you the warm fuzzies, Chris, because all the hate and these are the games that matter. I mean, half of these games have names, and you can, the Iron Bowl, good, clean, old-fashioned hate. Like, these are games that mean a lot to a lot of places, and it's awesome.
Everything for so many teams, because the playoff expanded, like, so many teams, your goals are on the line, and like the stakes are unbelievably high for all of this. It's why we love college football. It's why we love this week. Rivalry week is coming up. People are going to be home with their families over Thanksgiving. And that's actually why we want to talk about Poney, the newest sponsor of Bunch Formation. Poney, that's spelled Poney, is a new social scheduling app that makes getting together with friends much easier. They reached out to us as fans of the show. They're big college football fans, especially Michigan. And their app is perfect for games, for holidays, Friendsgivings, and other events. I mean, David, you're going back to Knoxville to be with family. Like, you've got some things planned. Like, we've all been part of when you've got a messy text thread or an email chain where somebody missed a message, from many hours ago. I'm someone who does that sometimes. And that's where this can really help.
Yeah. I mean, we look at the app. It just takes a few seconds really to create an event. You can select a time, a location, send it out, say we're going to be here from this time until this time. If you want to watch games, meet up, have a football game over Thanksgiving, whatever you want to do, you can do it. And it also syncs with your calendar and your map apps. People can RSVP as well without needing to download the app. You just need one person to set everything up.
That's actually pretty nice because you can send them the link and they can get set up. You don't need to have everybody download it first or something like that. If you've got a tailgate, perhaps, where you want to invite a certain number of people, but not too many people, Poney also has this interesting thing called Playdate that handles automated priority invites. So the people you care most about can get first dibs. And if they can't make it, then the invite rolls out to the next person. So you can basically list your friends in order. You don't have to tell them about it. I think it's actually pretty fun. It'd be like doing Deion Sanders, with his kids sometimes. If he doesn't want to bring all the kids, but he wants to bring some. It's good for friends, for youth sports teams. Anything you want to do in a group.
Yeah, I've started to use this. It's really easy and helpful. So ultimately, if you want to spend less time and energy planning and more time actually hanging out with the people that you like, whether it is family this week, whether you're coming home from college, meeting up with friends, all that stuff, download Poney and make it together effortless.
Yeah, and they're great people, Poney. Love college football. We appreciate them reaching out. That's Poney, Poney. Download Poney on the App Store or letspony.com. So moving forward, Tuesday's show, the live show from the playoff, I think that's going to be, I'll be live. I don't think David's going to be able to join us.
If I'm mad, I will come in from my phone and yell at you.
He will be traveling. There's frankly not that much ranking stuff to talk about because everybody in the top 14 won. So there may not even be much news anyway, but I'll still be there. I'll go live whenever the ESPN show goes on. So join us for that on the Bunch Formation YouTube channel. If you haven't checked out the show notes, we got timestamps in there if you want to jump around. Send all your feedback to bunchformationpod@gmail.com, and we're Bunch Formation on all the social media. We read every 5-star review on the show, and we got a bunch. I put out a call. We got a bunch of 5-star reviews on Apple, so appreciate everybody for doing that. We're not going to read them all out here. We'll spread it out over some episodes, but wanted to read one before we get to the news and everything. From Leanderthal 3000, who says, I've been following David and Chris for quite some time, and I'm incredibly excited to see what they do next with Bunch Formation. I appreciate their unique approach to the most important and least important things on earth, college football. Request, be more mindful of the interruptions. Give each other some more time to breathe and talk out your thoughts.
What if I really want Chris to shut up, though, and I have something to say?
I agree.
Can I interrupt?
And there is a bit of an issue. Sometimes you can hear it when we both talk. The stream mutes one of us sometimes. So apologies if that's an issue. We are.
Can I get a mute button for you, Chris, on my end where I just mute you if I want to talk over you?
I think technically we have the ability to mute each other on this. We both have access to it. But
shout out to Tony Reale. It's like my 3-year-old will take something from her sister and I'll be like, why did you do that? She's like, I really wanted it. It's like, okay.
That's all you need. All right. So before we get into the games recaps, we had quite a bit of news actually on Sunday. And so for that, we start off with the media scrum.
That's why I don't read the newspaper. Because it's garbage.
First up, Florida State. Mike Norvell is coming back as the head coach for the Seminoles for a 7th year. Florida State is currently 5-6. They just lost 21-11 to NC State in one of the just most bizarre / funniest ways you can lose a game.
Anytime you're scoring 11 points, some chicanery happened. You know that.
Yeah, we'll get to the game later. But basically, Florida State just doesn't have the money to buy out Mike Norvell right now. It would be the second largest buyout ever, $59 million. not including the assistants who also have some millions guaranteed. And yes, Norvell has an offset, but he's not getting another power 4 job most likely, or at least a high level one. It's not like James Franklin who can get a new job who offsets most of the buyout. Florida State would be on the hook for a lot of this. And then on top of having to pay a new coach $7 million or whatever, Florida State has also put hundreds of millions of dollars into stadium renovation, into a new football building that opened up this season. So like they have invested a lot in the program and they're just at a really tough spot. And Florida State fans are rightfully very upset, annoyed, apathetic. It's some of them, it's like, I'm surprised the coach is coming back. Some of them's like, you got to do this, got to do that. Florida State, though, like there's no good answers here. They are just in a really bad spot.
Yeah, I mean, I we hit on this earlier in the season, but I feel the frustration. And we talked on Saturday night about it. Feels like they're close. But when you look at the totality of the Mike Norvell era, that 23 season feels a lot more like an aberration, more than something you can get back to. And I think in general, just the roster building seems like a problem. And we'll see what they look like next year. I guess Tommy Castellanos has another year where he can come back, I guess.
Does he?
I'm not sure. But like this whole thing where they're rebooting the team. I mean, Mike Norvell is basically just Dion at a better program.
Well, I wouldn't say that, because
it's not to that degree, but the core of their team seems like it is rarely returning, and you're asking new players to play major roles in rebuilding your team. And if you miss on one or two of those guys, especially a quarterback, that gets hard in a hurry.
So here's the weird thing about Florida State too. They have outgained their opponent in 10 of 11 games. And I think outgained by quite a bit in most of them, like 40
At least 40 yards, I believe.
Yeah. And they're top 30 in scoring offense and scoring defense. Like,
and they're 5-6.
On paper, this is like a decent team. I think they're top 30 in SP plus, but you do things like miss 2 field goals against NC State and muff 2 punts and you lose by 11. You have the turnovers with the issue, the loss at Stanford. You know, like there are games that they have lost in the weirdest of margins. And you could say a lot of that is on the coaching, which is very true. But like this team is like legitimately markedly better than last year. The 2-10 debacle. So like technically it's going up. It's just not going up nearly as much as you want it to. And like you said, they do have to replace a lot of the production off of this year's team. They do, however, have quite a few like good freshmen who they found. There's a receiver, a couple defensive linemen. Like there are actually some young pieces that like are actually pretty good, even though recruiting has not been the strong point for Norvell. But still, yes, you are going to need to go pretty heavy on portal. I'm not super confident in his ability to like get this back where it was. And I think that's ultimately the frustration for Florida State fans.
Well, I think part of this too, and because Florida State is a little bit of a Rorschach test this season, in that all the things that you said are true and all the things that I said are true about the totality of the Norvell era. But you watch that team last year, they didn't. I mean, I remember watching them in like week 3 when they were still like ranked. And I'm like, this team is not good at literally anything. They do everything below average. You watch them this year, they made a lot of ridiculous plays and lost games and gave opponents advantages in really stupid ways. But you watch them, like they were competitive on the lines. Like Tommy Castellanos.
They beat Alabama.
Yeah,
they beat Alabama.
For all the criticism of Tommy Castellanos, he's been like pretty good this year. Like he's been better than anybody I think could have thought. A clear upgrade over DJU a season ago. And so I think this team doesn't seem like it's let go of the rope. I think they just can't get out of their own way sometimes. Last year, it felt like they let go of the rope and just quit. Impossible. So
yeah,
looking for silver linings, I don't think that means that all of a sudden Florida State's going to be contending for the ACC next year. But I don't think that you're just bracing for impact and it's going to go back to 2-10 next year. I don't think that.
Right. I do think, by the way, I think we are seeing the coaching market finally adjust in real time, because you now have Florida State, Wisconsin, Maryland, Baylor. All announced they're going to bring their embattled and beleaguered coaches back. And a big part of that is because they can't pay these buyouts because they have to pay the players. That is the first step toward the market properly adjusting. You think these buyouts are way too high? Well, so do the schools now, because that's why they're not paying them. It's a little bit different when it's James Franklin and Brian Kelly, guys who were still winning and can get other jobs that will still pay them big. But I think we may have finally hit a ceiling here. And I'm very curious if this is the moment that starts to change, because schools are going to realize they can't do this. 2 years ago, when Florida State gave that extension to Mike Norvell, you had to do it because like they were coming off of the undefeated regular season, and the Nick Saban thing happens, and you don't want to lose that momentum. So they got hit with some bad luck and some bad timing, and I think that sums up kind of where
I will say that I feel vindicated in my why are people talking about Mike Norvell for Alabama take at the time. But I think what's happening in the new era of college football is that you can have a B- coach and give him enough money to try and put together like an A- roster. Whereas like in the past, if you had a B- coach, he just was not able to do that. But money talks, and you can upgrade your roster with money in a way that just wasn't really possible in the past. And so maybe you don't have Nick Saban running your program, but if you have enough money and you're well-funded and you can get really good players, you don't have to have the greatest coach in the history of the sport overseeing your program.
I will say Florida State has invested in the roster pretty well. It's not like some of these other schools where they haven't spent money and now they will, like Virginia. So that's another thing that kind of makes it a bit tough. California, Berkeley has fired Justin Wilcox one day after a 31-10 loss to Stanford dropped them to 6-5. They are actually going to 3 straight bowl games, but all of them with 6, or if they beat SMU, 7 wins. The word going around before the season when Ron Rivera took over as GM was they want 8 wins. And if they had beaten Stanford, they would have been at 7-5 with a chance to get to 8. Now it's very unlikely. They clearly feel Justin Wilcox is not the guy to take them to that next level. You've got quarterback Jaron Songapulitele, who has been very promising, but very up and down as a freshman. But we also know everyone's going to try to take him now. Like, Oregon's probably going to try again. Like, everybody's going to want to go get this kid. I don't know if he's going to stay or not because his coaches are changing.
Yeah, I mean, he said, I think on a local TV spot like a week or two ago, that like he's planning on being a Bear forever. But like, I think money and a coaching change can change that in a hurry. So.
And I don't know if a freshman is really is necessarily certain how high a coaching search is. Like, I mean, we haven't really talked about Justin Wilcox on the hot seat this year. No. It really was how bad that Stanford loss was with an interim head coach that Cal decided to make the change. Cal's a school. They finally have an administration that cares about football, to their credit, including with Ron Rivera there. They still are in a difficult money spot. They've got a ton of debt from the stadium. They're only getting a small share of ACC television revenue. So it's a bit of a tough spot. Some names, I think, to potentially watch for this job. Tosh Lupoy, the Oregon defense coordinator. He is a former Cal player. Jim Moore, the head coach at UConn. He has received interest from other West Coast jobs, including Stanford. He's a West Coast guy. May want to get back there. He's doing a really good job at UConn. There, Sean Lewis at San Diego State. They're 9-2. Tim Plow at UC Davis, FCS, doing a good job there. Pat Fitzgerald, who's been in on like every job. Jason Eck at New Mexico. Maybe not the best fit, but he's doing a good job there. Brent Vegan at Montana State. Any thoughts on Cal and what they should do or what they should get?
I mean, I think that's a solid set of candidates. The Lupoy piece of it would be interesting. Obviously, he's been around. These guys that like made their bones as recruiters in the old day, having to sort of rebrand as their value has been undercut because money is the best recruiter now is really interesting. But he does seem like a juice guy. and just getting people excited about Cal football seems like it's been a problem. That was a big problem under Justin Wilcox. Like, think about the best moments under Wilcox, or just times when people were talking about them. Other than the Calgorithm when they started 5 or 6-0 last year and then lost the rest of their games.
Got college game day.
That's it. That's it. So I like all those pieces. I think it seems like they would be fortunate to land Jim Mora there. I don't know that he would necessarily want to take the Cal job over maybe others. But the upward mobility of Sean Lewis makes him pretty interesting. So we'll see.
We will see. I have that job basically on the same level as Stanford. Like, Stanford has much higher highs, but I think Cal's floor is a bit higher. Cal, by the way, 3 10-win seasons since 1950. The ceiling has not been very high there. Lastly, in the coaching department, Lane Kiffin, his decision on his future will come after Friday's Egg Bowl. Weirdly, as announced by the AD at Ole Miss and not announced by Lane Kiffin. I think this whole thing is ridiculous to string this out for so long, and for Lane to not even be the one to make that announcement. I think the entire College Game Day segment with Nick Saban and Kirk Herbstreit lamenting how poor Lane Kiffin is terrorized by this calendar and how difficult it is, I think that's nonsense. Not for someone who has a top 6 team and can win the national championship and is considering leaving for jobs within his own conference that are lower in the standings than Ole Miss. I don't want to hear any of this. I think Lane Kiffin looks terrible in all of this. All the PR that they've done over the last couple of years about Lane's a changed person and all these different things, like he's home, it's nonsense. The fact that this is stringing this along, the fact that he hasn't made this decision yet, the fact that he may leave a team that has a path to a national championship, almost unprecedented in the sport, and I think will be part of his legacy. That is something that you said on our Saturday show, that you think it wouldn't matter, that if Lane leaves, that he could get past this being one of those things on his resume. I completely disagree. We don't know. We still don't know what he's going to do. As we talk to people who know Lane, they say he still hasn't made up his mind. But as public as this all is, like, it's really unfortunate for Ole Miss, who is having one of the best seasons ever for them and has to deal with this and this negativity, and it sucks for them. And it's all because of Lane Kiffin and his ego.
I think people will remember it. We talked about Nick Saban and the Dolphins and Alabama on the Saturday night show. I think people will remember it, but it's like the 4th line in your coaching obituary rather than like the first. Like, if he goes to LSU or Florida and is fired in 3 to 4 years, which is possible, I guess, then I think it's colored differently than if he goes there and wins the national championship or revitalizes Florida football. I think it just looks different. So we'll see. Chris, there is an idea that because it's been dragged out this long, because he's been non-committal, because they want to announce this after the regular season, that means it's a given that he's leaving somewhere. He just doesn't know where. What do you buy into that idea?
I think that's most likely. Because I think if he had decided to stay, he would say he was going to stay, and he would say it before this Egg Bowl, which is what he did 3 years ago when he was considering the Auburn job. We don't know how this announcement is going to come. Like, some of us are just like theorizing it could happen on game day, because game day has played a very favorable platform to CAA clients like James Franklin, like Lane Kiffin. They are the agents for Nick Saban and a lot of people. And I talk to CAA agents for my job. Like, this is all just how a lot of this works. If he does announce it on TV, which we do not know he's going to do, I'm just saying, but if that becomes what it is, I think he's leaving, and I think there's backlash to game day for that. I mean, like, we thought when LeBron announced he was going to announce his decision, a lot of us thought, oh, there's no way he would have this national television show to leave and embarrass the city
with the Boys and Girls Club
of Greenwich, which is what he did. And so again, we're going like way down the line. We don't know that that is what it is. We do not know how he's going to make that announcement, but I would think at this point it's more likely he's leaving. As far down the road as he's gone, including his family visiting, Like his family wanted him to stay in Ole Miss last time, his daughters. That doesn't appear to be going on this time. One of his daughters is dating a player on the LSU football team as well.
It's been a compelling saga in theory, but like all of the breathless updates, I have found myself not compelled by.
Here's the thing. Like, what is preparing an offer? Like, either you're making the offer or you're not. Like,
I mean, it might just be making sure you have the financial commitments to do it. Like, this is what we intend to do, but we want to get it in writing.
He's going to get $11 million plus from anybody. He said money isn't going to be the deciding factor, and I don't think it will. I do think it's kind of funny that schools are promising him $25 million rosters when technically
illegal.
Yeah, you have to get all that approved, So like, I don't think that part's going to be in writing, but yeah, it's a lot.
College football, Chris. College football.
All right, now let's get to the actual college football. Let's get to the game recaps. A lot to talk about.
Kids are playing their tail off, and the coaches are screwing it up.
First off, in the Big Ten, we're going to start with the Big Ten. Oregon 42, USC 27. USC out of the playoff race. USC, disastrous special teams in this game. They missed a short field goal. They allowed a punt return touchdown. They had a leaping penalty on a field goal that led to a touchdown drive. There was a kickoff out of bounds. This game, never felt close, even though it was. Ultimately, I was impressed with Oregon. You get the big marquee win that you needed. You kept USC at arm's length, and you did this with a lot of backups on the offensive line. Like your top several receivers are out. Kenyon Sadiq, the all-world tight end, was back and made some ridiculous plays. That dude is nuts.
Dog.
But I like Oregon's ceiling if everybody can come back. We just don't know if they're all going to come back. But still, big win for Oregon.
Yeah, and we don't want to go too much into what we talked about Saturday night with USC, but the Lincoln Riley piece of this is getting a little bit.
Wait. I forgot to say the top of the show. We did do an After Dark show Saturday night.
Yes.
About 45 minutes. It's in your feeds right now. We did go longer on a lot of these bigger games that we won't go as long here. So if you want to, go back and listen to that.
The Lincoln Riley piece of it is getting kind of uncomfortable because I think if you're questioning if you can get to where you hire Lincoln Riley to take you, that seems like it's looking more and more unlikely as you watch his teams. The fact that this is his most complete team in year 4, and they're still not going to make a 12-team playoff in a pretty good but not that deep Big Ten. And then you have the Notre Dame piece of it, I think has cost him a lot of goodwill from USC fans. I think there's a lot of displeasure with him and Jen Cohen about how this Notre Dame rivalry situation is being handled. And then, the post-game question. I think people always seem to believe that all reporters stick up for reporters. I like to think I call it like I see it. It's a ridiculous question. You want to lay this out?
Let's explain it. Let's explain it. So a reporter,
go ahead,
there's a reporter for what I think the SI
Trojans
fan
Wire.
site or Trojans Wire is what it was. Asked a question to Lincoln Riley, basically saying, "What do you think about Oregon fans having signs that are asking to extend Lincoln Riley?" And Lincoln is taken aback by that question, understandably so. Says it. I think it was the worst or most unprofessional question he's ever been asked as a head coach. And was mostly just completely offended at the question being asked.
Saying we're trying to be professional here. You should try it as well.
Yeah. And the guy who asked it later said on Twitter, he paid his own dime to go there. It's not his full-time job to cover USC, but he is a USC fan and wants and basically doesn't think anybody should view USC as an easy win, and Oregon does. And fans need an answer for that. I didn't see anybody really defending him, even on the USC fan side
No. I mean, the flip side of this is from Lincoln's perspective. When you're losing, there's not a lot of way. I haven't really, put my finger to the wind to see how Lincoln's response landed with fans. But I think nationally, it's just rarely a good look to go after a reporter unless it's something egregious. I don't know about unprofessional. It's not a good question. It doesn't give you a really good answer. And there might be that dynamic of like, I think it is true. Like in the Big 12, you might catch Lincoln Riley on a bad day, but Oklahoma was feared in that league. You did not want to see Oklahoma on your schedule the next week. There is something too, like USC, nobody is scared of them. I think that's true.
But Oklahoma was feared before Lincoln Riley, and USC hasn't been feared for 15 years even before Lincoln Riley. I'll say this: USC is clearly better this year. They are better defensively. They are a more complete team.
Dude, no, that doesn't matter. You're USC.
Wait.
And you can't, You're USC and you can't make the 12-team playoff, and you haven't really sniffed a conference title. And you just
That's not true. Their first year they played in the conference championship game.
And they got rocked, Chris. And their defense
okay, but you said they weren't close.
Well, I'm just saying, in that game, it didn't feel like they were that close. My point is, nobody's asking Lincoln Riley to be Pete Carroll, to go win national championships every single year and just be a behemoth in the Pac-12, now the Big Ten. Nobody's asking that. But the fact that you can't get into the playoff, it's been an issue. And all you have to show for it is a Heisman Trophy, which is no small thing. But I think when you have a Heisman Trophy, ask Brian Kelly, and you waste that year and you accomplish nothing of note as a team, it almost makes things worse. And those early teams, like, they have fixed the defense. The offense is a work in progress. But those early teams were really frustrating for people because you had this freakish talent. The teams were fun to watch, and they didn't do anything. They didn't.
Well, here's the other thing, though, is that he has the #1 recruiting class in the country coming in. So, like, it's not like Norvell at Florida State where it's like, well, we're going to have to go portal like crazy again. Like, he is building it. They are better. It is going too slow. I know USC fan cares how much he's sacrificed to be here when his name comes up for other jobs. There's no like pity party. I would just say they are moving in the right direction slightly, directionally. Like, this team is a lot better than it was last year or 2 years ago. It's not where it needs to be, but it's better. Anyway,
Chris, you hate when people bring this up, but Kurt Signetti can make the playoff 2 years in a row, and Lincoln Riley can't get in it. Okay,
why doesn't everybody just? It's so easy, It's so easy to just go and hire Kurt Signetti.
Like, I don't think anything Lincoln Riley has done in his time at USC at this point is excusable when you have a lot of natural advantages. Like, Chris, what is the best thing? Like, is the best thing that they've done get to the Pac-12 championship and get destroyed?
Well, yeah, they were a top 5 team when that happened.
Okay.
So enough on USC. Their season, they got UCLA, but for all intents and purposes, we're done with them. Interesting comment about Dan Lanning said after this game, by the way, when he said, we didn't play Chattanooga State today like some other places. We competed.
You should have listened to Bunch Formation.
A little shot there. I will say,
listen, as a Chattanooga defender, I'm not going to let anybody come out here and besmirch my guy, Rusty Wright. I like the Chattanooga team, the Chattanooga staff. Great guys over there.
Here's the other problem. Can anybody get Chattanooga right? Because you also had Dan Mullen many years ago saying
Chattanooga.
UT Chattanooga.
I think it used to be UT Chattanooga, and they changed it to just Chattanooga.
It's just Chattanooga.
I love that staff. Great guys over there, just for the record.
Oregon, in their non-conference season, played Oregon State, Oklahoma State, and FCS Montana State. Okay, that's 3 FCS wins combined. I don't
think Oregon State, Oklahoma State, and a really good FCS team. Like, listen, they can't help it that Oregon State is a rival that has fallen off a cliff. Oklahoma State has their worst 2-year run in a decade.
So it's funny. There is someone dug up a quote from Lanning when he was the defensive coordinator at Georgia, saying, that's why there's nothing like the SEC, because every week's a grind. So coaches are going to be coaches. It is what it is. Oregon, though, like if they beat, they got to go to Washington. If they win, they're in the playoff. If they lose, I don't know that they're in, because you have to look at everybody else around them, from Oklahoma, Notre Dame, BYU, Alabama, Utah, Miami, Michigan, Texas, Vanderbilt. Like, there could be a lot of 10-2s here. And I'm very curious with how banged up Oregon has been, if they're going to have what they need going to Washington, which we know can put up points. And we saw in this Oregon game, by the way, a lot of pass interference penalties they've committed the last 2 weeks. This secondary has. So a lot going on there. Elsewhere in the Big Ten, real quick, Oregon State 42, Rutgers 9. The only notable thing here, Jeremiah Smith at Carnell Tate didn't play. And there are kind of mixed reports on how Jeremiah Smith looks walking around. That is going to be a big, big question this week. What is the status of Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate? Meanwhile, Michigan 45, Maryland 20. Michigan's got a bunch of injuries too. Running back Jordan Marshall didn't play, but it appears he'll be ready for next week. But fullback Max Bresman was on crutches as well. So both of these teams, Oregon too, all of these teams are really banged up coming down to this final weekend of the season. It's almost like they should have played Chattanooga or something like that, if you ask me.
Yeah. By the way, Chris, our guy Julian's saying 13 of 19, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns against Rutgers. Obviously, his top 2 targets out. I don't think it will matter because what he does against Michigan and Indiana will matter, but just saying. Anyway.
Yes. In terms of the Big Ten, we'll talk about all the tiebreakers more specifically going into the preview episode, but if Ohio State wins, they're in. If Indiana wins, they're in. If Ohio State loses, Michigan can get in. And there's a bunch of different scenarios. If Oregon loses, I think Oregon's ahead of Michigan, I think. But there's also the Big Ten sent out all the tiebreakers. Number 6 is if Purdue beats Indiana, Michigan beats Ohio State, Washington beats Oregon, the Big Ten championship will be a Michigan-Ohio State rematch. So, that is not off the table as well. But it's most likely we can assume Indiana's going to beat Purdue, but it'll be Indiana versus one of them. So we'll get more into that on the preview episode. Moving over to the ACC, Pitt 42, Georgia Tech 28. As Pat Narduzzi said, it was a must win, and they certainly played like it. They were up 28-0. Then it gets cut to 14, and Georgia Tech's close to cutting it to 7. A 100-yard pick 6 by Pitt makes it a 21-point game again. Then up 14, Pitt fakes a punt on 4th and 9 with 7 minutes left. Credit to Pat Narduzzi, who called himself a dumbass after the game for that call.
You played to win the game. I'll give him that, yeah.
And but Pitt gets a big run, touchdown. They win by 14. Georgia Tech pretty much out of the ACC picture now, out of the playoff picture now. Pitt back in it. Very impressive. Any thoughts on the game before we get into the other ACC stuff?
Did this game make you look at Notre Dame any differently?
No, because I think it's pretty clear that Pitt threw the game, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, obviously they didn't need to win it.
That's what Chuck Todd's out there saying as well on Twitter.
Yeah.
A little bit. So Pitt plays Miami next week. Well, and that will be another comparison for the Miami Notre Dame stuff, which we'll get into in a second. We know Georgia Tech's defense is horrible, and we know Notre Dame's defense is really good. And that ultimately, I think, was the game. Because Mason Hunchel against Notre Dame wanted to be anywhere else in the world. And on this week, he looked very comfortable.
Yeah. Well, all right. I mean, I think ultimately, I've been paying attention to these games. I'm covering the ACC championship this year for the first time in my career. I guess I'm excited about it. Logistically, it's kind of annoying because it's a late night game and stuff happens Sunday morning, and you got to be kind of ready for that. So that's one of the reasons why I've always liked covering the SEC versus the ACC. But all that to say, this has been a mess of a year in the ACC. Somebody will get in there, but
so yeesh. And we'll get into the rest here. So SMU beats Louisville 38-6. I was at the game. I will say, David, somebody in the press box when I got there came over to me and said, "What is David talking about with that Kurt Signetti take of his? That Lane Kiffin
You need
take?
to out this person, Chris. I'm going to press you to out.
It was Hawkins, the AP writer.
I haven't talked to Hawk in a while. Good dude. Well, listen, some of us are just of a more refined mind, Chris. I mean, listen, you don't think it matters that Lane has won? Lane has won 50 games.
We are not
in 5
relitigating
seasons.
it. No, we are not. Other than to say, to go back, if Lane Kiffin stays at Ole Miss and continues what he's doing there and is on a Kurt Signetti-like run, then they're going to make a statue of him. And I think you want to talk about legacy. I mean, that's a legacy that he's kind of giving up if he leaves. Anyway, SMU looked dominant in this game. Kevin Jennings looked so much better, so much more healthier. He's been dealing with several injuries all year long. They had the bye week last week. SMU is arguably playing as good as anybody in the ACC right now. And because Georgia Tech lost, if SMU beats Cal at Cal, now with an interim head coach, by the way, the interim head coach is Nick Rolovich. We didn't say that. But if SMU beats Cal, SMU is going to the ACC championship game for the second time in 2 years since joining the conference, which would be a remarkable accomplishment for them. Virginia was off this week. If they beat Virginia Tech, they are in. So the simplest result we could get from the ACC is if Virginia wins and SMU wins, it's an SMU Virginia championship game. Winner goes to the playoff. If Pitt beats Miami and one of the other two loses, I believe that puts Pitt in. So Pitt's got a chance.
I like the side game of Chandler Morris taking on the University Park Mustangs.
Elsewhere in the ACC, Miami beat Virginia Tech 34-17. A game that Miami was mostly in control with, and then got to like 10 points, and then Miami scored a touchdown at the very end to make it 17. Notre Dame beat Syracuse 70-7 in one of the most dominant performances you'll ever see. Duke beat North Carolina 32-25 to get to a bowl game. UNC is now 4-7, unlikely to make a bowl game simply because of the number of teams that are looking at bowl possibilities. In terms of the Miami Notre Dame thing, I still have Miami ranked ahead of Notre Dame because I think they're on the same level. Miami beat Syracuse 38-10, a game that was not close. It was 38-3 until the final minute again. Neither of these games were close. I'm not in the business of comparing who blew out a team more than another. I don't think that means anything. I don't think the committee is going to change these two either. David, any other Miami Notre Dame thoughts?
I still kind of care that Miami was a little sluggish in the first half of that game, but you're right. I don't really care what you did against Syracuse. Common opponents, I don't throw them out, but yeah, I'm with you.
We're going to get another one. I mean, if Miami beats Pitt by 7 at Pitt, where Notre Dame also went, that is another point in Notre Dame's favor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Notre Dame is a lock either at 10-2 for the reasons I just mentioned about Oregon, but they're looking pretty good. And Duke UNC, that fake field goal on 4th down that leads to the touchdown, that was an unbelievably gutsy call by Manny Diaz because the field goal would give you the lead.
Yes.
That was a very, very risky fake, but they executed it perfectly. We made the comment on the show Saturday that you don't see many fake field goals go that way, out to the direction the kicker is going. Then after we finished that show, UCLA did a flip over the back of the holder like we normally see. They fumbled it. Washington returned it for a touchdown. So
there you go.
Different ways to do fake field goals.
Manny Diaz, trailblazer.
All right. In the SEC, Oklahoma 17, Missouri 6. Oklahoma just keeps getting away with it, man. They had 276 total yards, and 87 of them came on one play. A pass to Satanga. Great throw, great run after the catch. Oklahoma had a 2-0 turnover edge. Missouri missed a field goal, which led to that long Oklahoma play. Blocked a field goal, and it led to that 87-yard touchdown. They looked horrible in their gray uniforms, which they've worn
This
before.
is a horrible uniform matchup in general. So
I actually thought Missouri looked okay. I didn't mind.
No,
Missouri
looked like Wyoming. That's Missouri's. Missouri doesn't need to be wearing white helmets. It just, and it's not like a good gold. It's just yellow. It's a bad look for everybody. Watching that game was painful from a uniform perspective. I will say, Chris, you mentioned the turnovers. I don't know what has gotten into Oklahoma because yes, they were kind of coasting that first that first 8 games, but through the first 8 games, they had forced 4 total turnovers.
Yeah,
and in the last 3 games, they have forced 8 and have lost just 2. They lost 2 in the Oklahoma or in the Tennessee game. That'll get you some wins. That's how you win games. And so I'm definitely looking side-eye at Oklahoma. I respect the record. They're doing what they're doing. But that feels like a Cinderella pumpkin situation waiting to happen in the playoff.
It feels like it depends who they match up with as well. I don't like their chances necessarily against a Notre Dame, but if there's a team out there that's like not great offensively that they get matched up with, then maybe I do like their chances. But either way, they're 9-2. They've got LSU at home, who's got an interim head coach and beat Western Kentucky 13-10 last weekend. So if Oklahoma beats
that's USA
LSU,
champs.
they are in the playoff. Oklahoma, if they beat LSU, deservedly so. They've got 3. Missouri's not going to be ranked, but they will have had 3 straight ranked wins. They beat Michigan. You lost to Ole Miss by 1 score. The only bad thing is the loss to Texas, who's not terrible anymore. And also shout out to Dr. Shin, the surgeon for John Mateer out in California, I think. He's in LA. He was at the game. He gave a horns down. David, I'm sure, hated that for acknowledging a rival.
I literally thought to myself, this is loser energy, but I'll allow it because, listen, Stephen Shin, like all hand surgeons, a populist at heart. So,
Vanderbilt beat Kentucky 45-17. Diego Pavia had more than 500 yards of offense himself, 6 touchdowns. Begged Clark Lee to put him back in the game or keep him in the game, which he did. And Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Some people were saying if Vanderbilt wins, beats Tennessee, they're in the playoff. I do not think that is a guarantee. Go look at Vanderbilt's schedule. It's actually not as good as we thought in hindsight, because some of these teams, Missouri, LSU, not what we thought at the time. So Vanderbilt's like solid. They're in the mix, but yeah, like we don't know for sure.
Tennessee would help you. The most important question for me, though, Chris, is Diego Pavia's mom actually dating Theo Vaughn?
Theo Vaughn was there.
I know, but there was like some hanky-panky on the sideline. It was weirding me out. I thought that was kind of a joke, and now I'm like, I don't think that was a joke. So I don't know. We'll see. Also,
Theo Vaughn was like the week prior doing the Ole Miss walk with Lane Kiffin. Like he's like the new Kenny Chesney of the SEC, where he's just a fan.
I'm still not sure what he does. He's podcasts, right?
He's a comedian. He's a stand-up comedian. He does a podcast. He also wears a Detroit Tigers hat sometimes. I don't know what it all is.
I'm vaguely familiar with his whole thing, so I apologize if he's awesome or whatever. He doesn't do much for me. So
elsewhere, Texas 52, Arkansas 37. Arch was good. Passing touchdown.
Touchdown, everyone's good against Arkansas's defense, Chris.
The problem is everyone is good against Arkansas's defense. Yes. Texas goes to Texas A&M, and I have a real question of like, if Texas beats A&M, should Texas jump Vanderbilt? Because they beat Vanderbilt. And the only difference between these two teams with 2 losses and 3 losses is that Texas played number 1 Ohio State on the road in week 1. And I feel like that's weighing them down. And I say that because the committee had them 3 spots apart. And you know who was between those two? USC and Georgia Tech, who both lost. So it was a very real chance on the Tuesday show that Texas and Vanderbilt will be evaluated in the same pool. And I think you have to put Texas ahead of Vanderbilt.
They were dominant in that game.
They were, except for Vanderbilt scored like 21 points in the last like 5 minutes to make the final score close. But it really wasn't if you watch that game. So we'll see on that. SEC, if A&M wins, they're in the SEC championship. If Bama wins against Auburn, they're in the SEC championship. Most of the other SEC.
Also, Chris, I got to ask, it sounds like the Arkansas job is going to pop this week. Anywhere? Where's that leaning?
Yeah, probably in the next couple of days. I've been told they're down to like the final 2 or 3. I've heard Kane Womack in that mix.
Yeah, his name. That last week was the first time I kind of heard his name in the mix. It makes a lot of sense. Obviously, an alum. Yeah, it's kind of had an up and down run at Bama, but a guy that is pretty highly regarded, obviously.
Also, I think Colin Klein, the OC at Texas A&M. I think Eric Morris, the head coach at North Texas, who's also very much in on Oklahoma State and a couple of other jobs.
Yeah, I was talking to people about this last week, Chris. Arkansas, in theory, is the better job, but playoff access is so important. If you're Eric Morris, we don't have to talk about Eric Morris. Like, in your mind, is Oklahoma State a better job than Arkansas? I kind of lean yes, mostly because of the playoff access. It feels like it shouldn't be because Arkansas is in the SEC and all those things. But Arkansas's path to the playoff, I mean, they're like the 11th, 12th best job in the conference. That's asking a lot.
It's a fair question, but like every coach thinks, hey, I'm the guy who can go there and get it right. I can be Kurt Cignetti. And the decision by Chip Kelly to take UCLA instead of Florida Florida was like a rare. That's because this guy like isn't really all about it and doesn't want to live the SEC life. So he's going to take the easier job at UCLA. That is not the normal way these things play out. So I'm not saying Eric Morris would take Arkansas over Oklahoma State. I don't like it's not done yet. It's getting very close to being done. North Texas also, by the way, we'll get to still very much in the playoff mix. Although if you were to hire a guy now, it would be a lot easier if you're hiring a coordinator instead of a sitting head coach. So there is that. We'll get to more of the SEC scenarios as well on the preview episode. Big 12, BYU 26, Cincinnati 14. LJ Martin, 222 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Really good game from him. Cincinnati kind of gave this away. At least they gave away themselves having a chance. They missed 3 field goals. They had 2 turnovers. They had a 4th down stuff inside the 5-yard line. They left a lot of points out there. But BYU has won a lot of close games. Their resume on paper is like pretty similar to Oregon, but they've just won so many like close games. You beat Colorado by 3. Arizona was overtime. Like Iowa State was tied in the 4th quarter until you had a couple of weird plays. They're good. I really like them. They feel like them getting left out for the 2nd year in a row is like pretty likely if they don't win the Big 12. Maybe wrong. Maybe
to
wrong.
Quote our friends at the Solid Verbal, Chris, winning is a skill.
It is. Utah 51, Kansas 47. Kansas State rushed for, I think, 500 yards in this game. Like, unbelievable. I wasn't watching this live until I saw the numbers people were tweeting. I was like, what is going on? And Utah comes back. They return a 2-point attempt by Kansas State for a 2 points. That ends up being the difference in a 4-point game. I'm curious if the committee drops them below Miami for that performance. Utah's a weird team where it's like they don't really have any good wins. Like they beat Arizona State, but Arizona State didn't have Sam Leavitt.
Yeah.
They beat up Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's like, okay.
If you like Utah, it's because they're beating the crap out of the teams that they're playing.
They usually beat the crap out of they beat the crap out of the teams that are like okay to bad, which helps their computer numbers. The computers like them. But anytime they play like a really good team like Texas Tech, generally doesn't go well. They were competitive with BYU, but they lost.
Dampier is a lot more limited as a passer than I kind of thought. Like it turns out that watching him at New Mexico throwing it around, out there is a little bit different than against Texas Tech's defense. When they get in situations where they have to pass, you're kind of covering your eyes and looking through your fingers when Dampier's dropping back and they can't really just let him be a running threat.
Someone in one of our group chats described it as the ball looks so heavy when he throws it.
It's true. He just listen. I love Devin Dampier. Very fun player. He is smaller. As a member of the small community, I respect it.
Big 12 scenarios. If Texas Tech beats West Virginia, they're in. If BYU beats UCF, they're in. If one of them lose, it gets a little bit weird. We'll get into it later in the week. Technically, the only path for Utah is actually a Utah-BYU rematch. They need Texas Tech to lose and some other teams to lose, and BYU to win, and that would somehow give Utah the way in. But we'll get into the details later in the week. If the top 2 teams win, there's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
Arizona
Chris,
State.
Before we move on, what did you make of Chris Klieman post game?
Oh yeah, let's talk about this. So Kansas State head coach Chris Klieman basically was like, he's tired of hearing fans who are upset saying that he's cashed it in, that players have quit, all this kinds of stuff, that he's been here for 7 years and he feels like he deserves a lot more respect than that. And got pretty emotional. And the AD came over as well, was pretty much in tears. I got to say, like, I agree with him pretty much in principle. Like, this is a team that has won like 9 games. I want to say like 3 years in a row. This year was obviously well short of expectations. But I think everybody has way too little patience for anything anymore. and immediately wants to call for coaches to be fired or for players to quit, to leave, all this kinds of stuff. Like sometimes you just have a bad year. And for a guy who's been there and won as consistently as he has won a Big 12 championship.
At a
I'm not
place,
gonna-
it should be noted, that is very hard to win.
Yes. And so like, yeah, it's a bad year. You can criticize them for being for it being a bad year and he has to be better. I think he would agree with that, but it's clear that the level of negativity has gotten to him, gotten to them. Look, they paid up to keep Avery Johnson, by the way, when Tennessee lost Nico. So like Kansas State has done what they could. It's just not working. And what did you think of it?
Well, I mean, we both know Chris, like a guy that has tremendous amount of respect in the coaching community, guy who treats people well, has a really good staff. I think ultimately, I don't know if the NIL piece of it weighs more on coaches, if they feel the expectation more, but certainly there is an element of those unmet expectations and things weighing on him in a frustrating year where K-State has been a tough watch a lot and trying to balance a lot of those things. And what I will say, as hard as it has been to watch K-State this year, I'm with you on Klieman in general, and I think a lot of coaches and the lack of patience that, we saw this even with like Tennessee after they lost to Alabama. It's like
Seeing it now, Tennessee, South Carolina.
Yeah. South Carolina's a really good example. It's like one bad year, and there's a not insignificant portion of a fan base who's just like, this guy sucks. We got to get him out of here. And I think I think it comes down to this, and I tell people this all the time. Winning is hard in college football. It's really hard. And winning consistently is even harder. And I don't think that having one bad year undercuts a coach. I think what Chris Klieman is going through, what Kansas State is going through, I think it's a sport-wide issue. And to quote the great philosopher Deion Sanders, commenting on his own struggles, so that's a separate issue. So I didn't forget how to coach in a year. I think that's true. And I don't know where this sort of quick bake culture ramp up in college football. I really am not sure.
I'll tell you where.
What fueled it in your mind, Chris?
It's
I
a couple
really
things.
don't know. It feels like people are less patient than ever.
One of it's social media and the nature of everything just being sped up. And the second part is Kurt Signetti. Like it's him and it's other people.
Chris, you're like the chief Signetti hater.
I love Kurt
I have
Signetti.
compared
I'm
him
saying
to Nirvana, and I think that's fair. But like, it's not just Signetti. I don't think that's it.
Look, I wrote this last week. I talked to Tom McMillan, for a Maryland board member, former congressman, about them keeping Mike Loxley, and he was like, and he basically said that he's like, everybody thinks you just go get Kurt Signetti and you'll fix things. Like that is. You can't just do that. He has like reshifted the expectation. He's broken everybody's brains because he's made people think it's easy. It's not easy. What Kurt Signetti is doing is miraculous. That's my credit to him. I think fans have seen, wait, why is Vanderbilt ranked? Why is Texas Tech? Why is Indiana? Ole Miss is up there. They all think the fix is very quick now. And so we're not willing to give a coach more than 1 year. By the way, Chris Klieman, 5-6 this year. 5 of those 6 losses are by 1 score.
Yeah.
Okay, like this is not now they also beat North Dakota by 1 score and they beat Oklahoma State by 1 score. So like it's every game's been pretty close. And if a couple of things go another way, Baylor hit a walk-off field goal against them. Like things are very different. If just a couple things go a different, SMU could be 10-1 and in the top 5 mix right now, but they had a walk-off field goal by Wake Forest and Baylor made a 14-point comeback and SMU missed a field goal. Like winning is hard. Like these things come down to the margins, and like I think Chris Klieman needs to shake up the staff. I think they need to figure out what the heck they can do to get the most out of Avery Johnson because they are not doing it.
Yeah,
and I think that's ultimately the problem.
I think that to me, because it did strike a chord with me, and not just because of like knowing their staff or anything K-State has done, because it did feel like a reckoning for the sport, and I think. It feels like every stadium in the country should just put winning is hard on the field because it is. And I think people forget that. People do think it's easier than it actually is, especially now. And not just winning, but sustaining winning, keeping your players motivated, managing all the money issues that coaches aren't used to. You go in the NFL, people understand how to manage that stuff and deal with that. It's still very new in college football and figuring out all that stuff, the budgeting, the personality piece of it, the how does that fit in recruiting, like all of these things, like the sport and the blueprint for winning is changing, and it has changed every year since we've had NIL. Like the strategy has changed a little bit every single year. And I think people have a fundamental lack of understanding and respect for how hard it is.
And while the sport is flattened at the top, what isn't a good job has dramatically changed. Like Kansas State and TCU and Baylor, you look at Texas Tech being like, look what they did. We should do that. Well, you can't. Like, not everybody can do that. Like, Baylor doesn't have the money I think people think it does. Turns out if you're SMU and Texas Tech and have a couple of oil billionaires, that goes a long way. Most people don't have that. And you just kind of adjust expectations. Rest of the Big 12 here, Arizona State 42, Colorado 17. Kenny Dillingham getting this Arizona State team to 8-3, like, honestly, is more impressive than winning the Big 12 last year and making the playoff quarterfinal and almost beating
three
Texas.
wins in a row for Jeff Sims, Chris.
3 wins in a row with Jeff Sims. And I know some West Virginia and Colorado, and they're not the best teams, but Jordan Tyson has been out as well. He came back and played in this game because he hates Colorado and he transferred out there.
He only had 2 catches, but yes.
But he did come back and play, but he is very banged up as well. Like that is a very tough spot they're going through. And they are now 8-3 and going to play Arizona, who beat Baylor 41-17. 2 8-3 teams. One of these teams, Arizona State's going to get to 9 wins and is going to be an unbelievably impressive job. And Arizona, by the way, good thing they didn't fire Brent Brennan, huh? Like, remember that conversation last year, which seemed insane to me because 1, it's his first year. 2, you hired him in January. Like, he missed the key part of the offseason because the Nick Saban, who's no victim to the calendar, decided to retire at a moment that like screwed over a bunch of different programs. Brendan,
and by the way, Chris screwed me over personally. I think I've told this story, have I not?
Yeah. Yes.
I was at the FBS coaches meeting an hour before Saban retired. We were like right there with like 40 D1 coaches. Would have been a great piece talking to them. And I was on the road between Nashville and Knoxville driving back home. And it was like an hour after I'd left this room with like 40, 50 coaches and Saban retired. And I was not happy because like talking to those guys about like just what he meant to the sport and what it meant for the future of the sport. Like it would have been one of the more interesting pieces.
Anyway,
go ahead.
Sorry, that was so difficult. Sorry, that was so difficult on you.
I'm just saying. Every time I think about Saban retiring, I get mad because I'm like, you couldn't have done that an hour earlier, dude.
But Brent Brennan taking this team to 8-3. They've clearly gotten better as the year goes on. If you flip that BYU overtime game to a win, you're very much in the playoff and the conference title mix. Yeah. We talked to him before the season at Media Day, and he was like, my first year, I did everything I could to try to get everybody to stay. And I was, kissing up to everybody because he missed the winter portal period. And for the second season, he said, I'm done with that. If you don't want to be here, screw you, get out of here. We're doing this my way. He was like very upfront about that. And look, turns out it's working. Turns out the guy who took San Jose State to a conference championship knows how to be a pretty good coach. So that's big for them.
I think it's worth noting San Jose State, since he's left, not going great.
Not this year. Last year they were okay, but not this year. Yeah. G5 corner here brought to you by Soar the Eagle and the Sun. Tulane 37, Temple 13. Tulane takes care of business on the road. They are the highest ranked group of 5 team, the only ranked group of 5 team in the CFP rankings last week, meaning if they win their last game this week, I think it's Charlotte,
they will Charlotte, who I have seen in person twice. They're bad.
They will play for the American Championship and a chance to go to the playoff. UTSA beat East Carolina 58-24 because the Alamo Dome is the toughest place to play in the history of college football really is. But that knocks out ECU from the American race. North Texas beat Rice 56-24. North Texas, by the way, has scored 50 points 6 times this year in 11 games. Truly unreal. But if Tulane and North Texas win, North Texas has Temple next week, I believe. So if those two win, they're in. Winner will play for the playoff spot. If somebody
It's going to be a great game.
Really is. If somebody loses, I guess Tulane would probably host. I was going to say if it was in Denton, I could get there, but it's probably not going to be in Denton. If they both win, winner of the American gets the playoff bid because JMU beat Washington State 24-20. Good win, 10-1. I think JMU's a really good team. There's just not enough meat on the schedule to put you ahead of those American teams, especially with them playing each other most likely in the conference championship game. Another point of comparison that I'm making that JMU fans get very mad at me over. North Texas beat Washington State 59-10. And I know it's a different Washington State team. They played, changed quarterbacks, whatever. But you only have 11, 12 games on a schedule. And one of them beat them by 4. One of them beat them by 49. I don't care what kind of comparison you make. I have North Texas as my top-ranked G5 team because they destroyed UTSA, who beat Tulane. Ultimately, doesn't really matter. David, any thoughts?
No, I'm excited for this thing to come to a head. Here's a question for you, Chris.
Yeah.
I feel this in my bones. If JMU was undefeated, I would be standing on the table campaigning for them to get to the playoff. I don't know if they would get there because of all the things that you mentioned. I don't know that a win over Louisville, would be enough.
I think it would. If James Madison was undefeated, they would be getting this spot.
I think so.
Because
either way, I'm glad they're not because I feel bad for them, but not that bad because they had a chance and they lost. So.
Yeah, look, that was a tie game, I think, going into the fourth quarter. Like, it's not like JMU got blown out, and they have destroyed most of their opponents the rest of the year, although obviously this Washington State game was a bit closer. Good team. I like JMU. Thought they should have gone to a bowl game a few years ago, when that whole thing was going on. So I just think the Americans got like North Texas has a win over Navy, and their one loss is to USF. James Madison has a loss to Louisville. Their best win is like Old Dominion, who is 8-3, but like Old Dominion is nowhere near on the level, I don't think, of some of those other ones. Tulane's beat Duke and Northwestern. Those are two winning FBS teams. And yes, they got blown out by Ole Miss, but like they beat ECU, they beat Memphis at Memphis. They've got more wins. They've got more good wins, and the losses are more understandable. It's really all it is. So we'll see. Other games of note. UNLV 38, Hawaii 10. UNLV still in the race for the Mountain West Championship game behind San Diego State. There's a couple of teams tied at 2 losses. We'll go over all these on Thursday. By the way, Dan Mullen is not getting talked about nearly enough for having this team at 9-2. And I think it's because of what Barry Odom did the last 2 years. But like Dan Mullen had to make like a whole new team.
Yeah, it was literally the land of misfit toys over there. Like, if you go, we were doing this in week 0, Chris. It was basically one long Remember Some Guys episode on our text thread, watching them play.
Alex Orgy, Anthony Calandra.
Go look at UNLV's roster; it's incredible.
Justin Flo, I think. Yeah.
There's some like unbelievable transfers on there.
Like, it's not like Dan Mullen didn't just like take over a team that had played for the Mountain West 2 years in a row and like just continue with that. He had to make a new team. He's done a really good job there.
Mm-hmm.
He said he's coming back to UNLV next year. He tweeted he had no interest in Arkansas. I'm kind of surprised he did because he probably could get a pretty good job in this cycle. But anyway, he's doing a good job. FIU 27, Jacksonville State 21. Willie Simmons has FIU bowl eligible in his first season there.
Shocker.
Unbelievable.
The guy who wins everywhere comes somewhere else and wins. Imagine that.
He has never had a losing season as a head coach, I don't believe.
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing he went. I'm sure it's all the lessons that he learned during his year as Duke's running backs coach, so he could get some notice for FBS jobs.
For people who don't know,
I'm sure that helps.
He was a head coach at one. I forget which the other HBCU was, but he went from there to Florida A&M. Did a good job at Florida A&M. He interviewed for USF, couldn't get a head job, goes to Duke for 1 year as running backs coach, then gets the FIU head coaching job, and he's doing a good job there. Pitbull is pleased. UConn 48, FAU 45. UConn season is done. They're 9-3. They don't play next week. And Jim Mora, like I said, is in the mix for some other jobs. We'll see. But like, I've seen pictures of their stadium at UConn, like pretty much full. They've had their biggest crowd they've had in forever. Like, we all thought UConn football was dead. Get rid of it. Drop it down to FCS. When they fired Randy Edsel, and what Jim Mora has done there has been incredible. And it shows that there very much still is a football audience at UConn. They're just toiling away in Independence Land, where nothing that they do really matters unless you're a fan of UConn. So it's a tough spot. Then some frightening news: USF 48, UAB 18. 2 players were injured, were stabbed, allegedly by a teammate before the game, like at the breakfast, I think.
Team breakfast at the team facility.
You ended up writing about this. Just what's the latest?
Yeah, I think there's going to be probably a court appearance early this week. UAB, obviously, when something like this happens, they're pretty tight about details. The court records were pretty tightly, well, I wouldn't say sealed. Just there wasn't an apparatus to get a police report during the weekend as this was happening. But I had 2 thoughts. One, pretty impossible decision from the team of what to do. I think there was a lot of people who felt like you shouldn't be playing. They said they left it up to the players. Some players didn't play. I think you forget, like, that's their senior day, their last home game. I'm sure a lot of people had family in town. Like, that's a hard decision. There's no good option there. I think you just have to leave it up to the players to do what every player wants to do. But I do think in that situation, AD Mark Ingram not present at the post game, not really out there trying to, I don't know, just be a force and be a representative of the school during a really difficult time. Probably not what you want to see from an AD, even though they're in the middle of a coaching search. So
yeah,
a tough situation. I'm glad that it sounds like everybody that was involved is in stable condition. But I think that's the most important thing. Is that the guys who were injured were obviously still okay. But a weird story. And a lot of unanswered questions that we're going to try to answer this week. So
a lot more to come. Thankfully, no life-threatening injuries. Like, just very bizarre situation. Alex Mortensen, the interim head coach, being kind of tasked with handling all of that is a lot. So hopefully everybody at UAB is okay. And obviously more on that as that develops. The hot seat watch. There's only 1 school left. I had 3 on here when the day started, but then Florida State announced that they were keeping Mike Norvell, and Cal announced that they were getting rid of Justin Wilcox. So the 1 school left on here is Michigan State, which lost 20-17 to Iowa on a walk-off field goal. Michigan State led 17-7 in this game, but Jonathan Smith made some bizarre coaching decisions. They several times punted to Iowa's All-American punt returner. He took 1 back for a touchdown. He had a few more big returns. Why are you punting to him? Eventually, they start doing quick kicks with the quarterback. Then late, he calls a timeout to stop the clock with 51 seconds left before a Michigan State 3rd down. They don't convert it. Gives Iowa more time. They drive down, kick the winning field goal. I don't know what's happening at Michigan State. And it's very weird that one thing that nothing has been said one way or another. That they haven't said we're keeping him, like 4 other schools have done, or that they're firing him. I'm not sure why. I don't know if that means Jonathan Smith might leave for one of those jobs on the West Coast, a Cal, a Stanford, a Colorado State, an Oregon State. I don't know. Like, that has been talked about. Is that something that could happen? But the silence on that front is bizarre. The NCAA penalties against Michigan State for the self-reported recruiting violations under Mel Tucker make this less of an appealing job in what we have already explained is a very difficult market. So I don't know what's happening one way or another with Michigan State. And I'm frankly surprised that nothing has been cleared up, because this going on as long as it has is only making everything worse. There were only 2 players made available after the game. Both of them basically had to go to bat for Jonathan Smith. I don't know why the AD's not doing that unless you haven't made a decision, in which case, like, you're on the clock, guys. So, like, I don't know what's happening here, but this was another bad loss. Michigan State They have Maryland next week at Ford Field. They are 0-7 in Big Ten play right now. I'm sorry, 0-8. They have never gone winless or tieless in the Big Ten ever since they joined the conference in 1953. It's never happened. If they lose to Maryland, it'll be the first totally winless Big Ten season in Michigan State history. It's bad.
Do you think, Chris, that some of those West Coast jobs would just sort of overlook the last 2 years at Michigan State and say, it was a bad fit. We trust more what we saw with you at Oregon State?
Well, that's the thing. Like a month ago, like the thought was like, okay, like maybe Jonathan Smith still has enough cachet and stuff on his resume to leave. But with the way the season is played out, like that is then hurting his own.
Yeah, it could be a tough sell. I mean, I
candidacy.
think I could see it working, but that's a tough sell for fan base if you go somewhere that doesn't love him.
So it's really bad at Michigan State, and I don't know. Maybe we'll get a resolution this week or not. I don't know. All right, now we're going to go to the helmet stickers. This is where we give a shout out to somebody who deserves more love and attention for what they did over the weekend and maybe didn't get enough of it. Now I'm going with North Texas wide receiver Wyatt Young. Get a load of this box score. 8 catches, 295 yards, 2 touchdowns.
The catch and run he had was one of the craziest plays I've seen all season. It was incredible.
He had quite a few of them, as noted, as pretty obvious by that box score. He averaged 36.9 yards per catch. Like I said, North Texas has scored over 50.6 times. They did this against Charlotte as well, where they just big play machines. And I know they got, kind of run over by USF, but it feels like North Texas's offense is something that could give them like a modicum of a shot in a playoff game, depending on who you match up with. Like maybe not like a Georgia, if that's who you got to play, but like they could be interesting if they make it to the playoff. But Wyatt Young, unbelievable day for Drew Messina.
Yeah. I am going with, we talked about it a little bit, Diego Pavia, 33 of 39, 484 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns, another 48 yards rushing, and a touchdown. Man, I'm excited to see this game this weekend. I was thinking, Chris, I have not ever seen Diego Pavia in person, which I feel like have been some on the forefront of Diego Pavia appreciation for years running. I think we did 20 minutes on the P incident at New Mexico State, if I recall correctly. We've been on this.
We also thought he was getting too far ahead of himself with his preseason kind of trash talking, and he's backed it up pretty much.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm very excited to see him. I don't think I've seen him in person, and I will get that opportunity this week, so I'm looking forward to that. So shout out to Diego Pavia.
Can't doubt Diego Pavia.
I'm gonna slap the Bunch Formation helmet sticker on his helmet when I see him on Saturday. I'm sure he'll appreciate it.
All right, and we're gonna close the show the way we always do, and that is by remembering some guys.
It's better than this. Guys being dudes.
I'm gonna go with, they had a big win in the rivalry this week, so Stanford quarterback Andrew Luck. He was obviously a very decorated quarterback there. I think he won an Orange Bowl. Played in the NFL for a little bit and disappeared. No one's really sure what he's been up to, actually. So I decided to look it up. Turns out he's working at Stanford football. Did you know that?
Good for him. Yeah. I didn't know that. I was actually we talked a lot about at the top of the show, rivalry week is one of the best things in college football. But his sideline interview, I think it does illustrate like why, one, people love sports, and two, sports are the most valuable entity on television, because you have this sort of stupid sideline interview with Andrew Luck. It's weird that
it was fine. It wasn't stupid.
I know, but why do we need an in-game interview with the G? Like it was weird. It doesn't really matter. Like you can do it on the broadcast. I'm sure we've had less relevant people, whatever. Like it's fine that you talk to him. But the fact is, you have Andrew Luck on there, and then you get the strip sack, and they go running right by where he is. And obviously, he cuts the interview off, and then he's like yelling ball. Like it's the best reality television show in the history of entertainment. And it's always going to be that because it's unpredictable. You really never know what's going to happen next. And sometimes you queue up Andrew Luck for a lighthearted interview and you get the viral moment of the weekend in college football.
My favorite part of it was like, it's not like the fumble happened in front of him. He was turning in mid-interview. He's just like, not a play's going on. I want to make sure I look at the play and turn around. And then that's when it happens. And he reacts like he did. You know, he's been really kind of leading this football search. Their job, I imagine they'll fill that pretty quickly here. But Andrew Luck, just one of the most interesting kind of quarterbacks we've ever had, but fun guy at Stanford. And yeah, obviously making a joke here, seeing him on TV, realizing he's the GM of the program and he's not like, he was just playing yesterday. I swear to God, he was playing at Stanford yesterday. So that was cool. I also love the Stanford Cal post game, or like when they hand over the axe in both the bands, they're both looking at each other before they hand it to the other one. And like some players were around there, like talking trash. Like it's a great stupid thing between nerds. And that's why I love it. Cause you're never going to get that in the NFL.
Yeah. Andrew Luck, come on the podcast. We had him on the previous show, and then their coach had to get fired.
He was set to come on until Saturday, back when that show existed. It no longer exists. This is the show. Like, and then like a day or two before,
literally like the next day, the Troy Taylor report dropped.
Yeah, and then they're like, yeah, he's not going to be doing interviews, and he had already done Barstool and like a couple of other interviews. We were just next in line, and it got cut off right before us, so they owe us one.
Anyway, Andrew Luck, come on the show. I'm going to remember another quarterback from out west, Ryan Lindley from San Diego State. I believe he owns like every single San Diego State record. But these guys that just I have a soft spot for the long-term starting quarterback at proud G5 programs, and Ryan Lindley at San Diego State oversaw a very proud era of that football team. So shout out to Ryan Lindley.
Do you know what Ryan Lindley's doing now?
I don't know what he's doing now.
He's on the coaching staff.
Oh, all right, good for him.
He's been there since 2022. He like came on like mid-season, I think, as an analyst or quarterbacks coach. He was the OC in 2023. He's been an analyst ever since. So he's been helping out. They're 9-2, although they're mostly 9-2 because the defense is actually really good. But yeah, he's still around there coaching for them.
That's exciting. Threw for 12,690 yards, 90 touchdowns, 47 picks, and negative 275 yards rushing. So I have 275 more rushing yards in my career than Ryan Lindley, but I remember him.
Thank you. Nomination from Mo from Maryland, who says, before I remember some guys, I'd like to thank you both for your service and using your influence to help correct the awful sports bar culture of not having games on TVs. Also, Chris, you mentioned in an episode that Gary Thorne and how you associated him with 90s, 2000s NHL hockey. I truly only associate him with baseball because he was the voice of the Orioles for many of my years growing up into adulthood. It's a shame he was stuck watching so much shitty baseball, as we were absolutely terrible for most of his time as the voice of the Orioles. Now, I've got 3 nominations for you guys. I'm not going to read all 3 because the rule is 1, and if I'm going to hold David to it, I got to hold Mo from Maryland to it. But it's a good first one. Northwestern quarterback Dan Persa.
It's a great guy to remember. Fantastic.
Mo says a real scrappy player. He was a proper dual threat QB. I think would have been remembered a lot more had he played at a major program. He really kind of set the foundation for those peak years under Pat Fitzgerald. Dude took a lot of hits and was always injured, but always showed up when it mattered. We also have the same birthday, Mo.
I love when a guy that I remember. I think I have not thought about Dan Persa since he stopped playing college football. And it's like when you discover like a song that you forgot existed, and you're like, oh, I like it. I haven't thought about this song in 10 years. Dan Persa, you are my anthem for the day. I need to go watch some Dan Persa highlights on YouTube.
There's
sick cut.
There's like a remarkable run of Northwestern quarterbacks. We've mentioned some of them on this show already. Remember some guys, but like Brett Bazinet, I remember. But the other one, doesn't count because he's out there. But Mike Kafka He's currently he's the head coach for the Giants, the New York Giants right now.
He's the head
Brian
coach?
Daboll got
Oh, I
fired.
guess he was the interim after they fired Dable. I didn't realize
He's
that.
the interim head coach, and his team
right.
blew a lead to my Detroit Lions on Sunday. So thank you for that history of Northwestern quarterbacks.
All right.
Please send your nominations to bunchformationpod@gmail.com. We have a lot of nominations. A lot of people reached out, so there is a longer list, but thank you for people who have done that. Reminder, we will be live, or at least I will be live on Tuesday on the YouTube channel to react to the playoff rankings. We will have the normal Thursday preview episode. Enjoy that with your Thanksgiving get-togethers. Make sure you use that Poney app to get together and with your friends and everything over the week. David, anything else you want to hit on?
I'm going to try not to get my email hacked this week. Shout out to the New York Times security team and the Bytes technology team. They came through big time. So every time I've had to, I might be the world's foremost New York Times Bytes appreciator. Their team is unbelievable. They're about as good. Like they're on the Signetti level of being good at their job. So
dude, that guy, like a year ago at the New York Times building, we had a staff meeting and we had a presentation from the head of security guy.
Yeah.
And that guy, he's like the head of security, he's like a former undercover FBI
Yeah,
agent.
none of us knew what this presentation was going to be about.
And he was wild. He was so cool and like so on top of things. And he's talking about how they extract reporters from war zones and stuff. And we're like
talking about military coups. I'm like, well, the best way to survive a coup is like,
and we're like, hey, I was in the middle of a field storm and it felt pretty dangerous there for a minute.
Yeah, he gives this presentation a lot, and he was like, "So what do you guys do?" And we're like, "Well, we cover college football." He's like, "Oh, okay."
but yeah. So I'm sure what he's been through is comparable to helping David's email there. So
probably, yeah.
All right, busy week coming up. I can't wait for this week of college football. We got a lot of work to do. We'll both be at games. We'll talk about that on the Thursday show as well. Please subscribe to the YouTube. Please subscribe. Leave a 5-star review. All that stuff really helps this show. It's been a very fun first season of this show. So for David Ubben, I am Chris Vanini. Thank you for watching and listening to Bunch Formation. And we will talk to you, or I will talk to you at least, on Tuesday.
And even on Thanksgiving, bring back the turnover chain.